Everyone. Okay, so today we are going to go to into strings. Please keep in mind that strings. There's much more to strings than I will be discussing in this video, and probably in the future I will make a very long video about that, or not so long, but more advanced, more detailed. But for now, since we're starting, I want to make sure that this series is basic to mid level so that we'll cover the stuff that's mostly used by most programmers, most users, and we'll leave the complicated stuff to more advanced lectures and details and longer elaboration and so on. Okay, but we will cover, but don't worry, we will cover enough. You'll see this video isn't going to be too short. There's a lot to strings, so we will cover enough that you are comfortable and you can use them in a wide range of applications. Okay, so basically strings are you use them in order to jot down like textual information, like for example names, job titles, and uh, they're an example. So in Python, so basically strings are an example of a sequence. Okay, what's a sequence? It's an ordered, it's a positionally ordered collection of objects. Okay, so that's what they are. And so that's generally the definition. Now let's go through some of the operations of the strings. Okay, so string operations we will discuss next. So some of those are like indexing, length, and so on. So suppose let's start with I'm gonna call my string to be s. I'm just gonna assign a string to s. So you put that in single quotes. So it could be anything. Let's just say let's just call it for example Russia. Okay, so that's our string. Okay, so each one of these letters is a character, and we assign it to a name s. It could be anything. I'll talk more about assignments soon, but for now I'm basically, rather than keep printing typing Russia, I can just assign it to a name s, and then I can refer to the string by the name s, right? So first thing, I can figure out what the length of this string is, right? So if I type len and then s, since I assigned it to s, it will tell me that there are six character. This is a character string inside s. Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about indexing. Let's say I want to start picking stuff, picking like say the first item in the string. So I can simply say I can say s, okay, and I open brackets here, and I do 0. Why 0? Very important. Python always starts numbering from 0, not 1. Very important. I will say that again. Python's initial numbering in everything we do here is not 1. Like, the way people talk to each other in common sense and so on. It always starts at 0. So watch out for that. It's one of these pitfalls for even sometimes the most advanced programmers fall into that pit. They forget about 0, so they're trying to to pick to code something from a list and so on, and they forget that the list doesn't start at 1, it starts at 0, so you end up picking the wrong choice, the wrong item, and it can lead to bigger problems than that. Okay, so s0 is always the first in Python. Okay, so in this case I am picking the first character in that string, and you can see it gives me back an r because the first character is r, right? And notice it puts it in brackets. Okay, so indexing in Python, I will say it for the 10th time, indexing always start at 0. This is called indexing. That means I'm picking out a specific item, specific character from that string. Okay, I could also do S1, so that's the second, and you can see the second is U, right? And so yeah, I could also, let's say I want to start from the end, but I don't want to count, the letters to where that A is, right? So what I can do is I can say I can index -1. So -1 in Python means it picks out the last. Okay, this is very important what we're discussing now, because this same logic will apply on other objects in Python. Okay, like lists, tuples, dictionaries that we will discuss later. So make sure you understand what I'm saying here, because I will not elaborate on it at the same length. So I will assume that somebody has watched this series before they move on to the next ones. So this is a good place for me to illustrate that. Make sure you watch those videos. I'm gradually going up in the material from the first to the last. So what I covered in the first one, I'm not gonna cover. I will might still give some quick reminders, but I will not like cover in the same depth I covered it before, because otherwise each one of these videos will become very very long, and it's a lot of people don't like very long videos. It kind of defeats the purpose of making it concise and at the same time getting as much out of it as someone can. Okay, so -1 will pick the A, the last character, and you can see it types the A. I can also pick the next to the last, so that's -2. So basically, if you start numbering from the end, it goes -1, -2, -3, etc. Right? And S -2, you can see it gives me an I. So this is the second to the last item from the end. Okay. Now, let's talk about slicing. Okay, slicing. If I put this is, by the way, in 3 quotes like this, it's not read as part of the code. This is just to illustrate. So here we were discussing more like indexing, right? So all the stuff here was indexing. So let's go through slicing now. So slicing means this is sort of a more general form of indexing. I can extract an entire slice, not just one character, right? So like so if I were to just type S, of course, it's gonna give me the entire string. It's gonna give me back Russia, right? Because that's the entire string. But let's say I don't want the entire thing. Let's say I want just from, say, from the second letter to the one before the last letter. Now, keep in mind, the second letter is not 2, okay? Because we start indexing at 0, so it's going to be 1, right? And then I use the column. So now I'm telling Python I want part of the string starting at character 2, right? Index 1 means character 2, and let's say I want to go all the way to 4, okay? And you can see it gives me USS. USS is, so U is the second, 2, 3, 4, right? So 2, 3, 4. So it gives me 3. It gives me 1, 2, 3. Notice it didn't give me the fourth one, right? Because if you start from 0, being the R, the fourth one is going to be I, right? So this indexing excludes the fourth. So it starts at the left and it gives you the one before the end of the one on the right. Okay? So it gives you 1, 2, 3, but not 4. If you want 4, then you have to put here 5, and then it picks up 5. Okay. Now, suppose that another trick is I want to start at 1, but then I want everything after it. And I don't want to count how many letters. Let's say I have a big string and I don't want to count how many. I mean, I could easily get it from length, right? I already showed you how to use length. But nonetheless, if I just leave this like this blank, then Python knows, okay, I'm going to give you, and then we enter it, so you can see it gives you everything else starting from 1, okay, from the first character. So that means here it goes all the way to the end. If you don't specify, it goes all the way to the end. Okay, and likewise I could separate those with a comma, by the way. And let's say I want everything but the last, right? So then I would go everything, okay, and then I would go to the very last one before the last. So this is characters of 6. So if I go to 6, right, it's gonna give me up to the 5th. So oops, sorry, it's 5, right, because 0 is included, we said. So it's gonna give me 5. So it starts there. Yeah. Okay. So it gives me the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. So the one on the left, I don't specify the right side. It's gonna go all the way to the end of the string, and the if I leave the left side blank before the column, it's gonna pick everything from the very beginning, all the way up to the 5th character I specify. Okay. Now look at this too. Let's say I don't specify neither the left nor the right. Right. I just put a column here. That means I didn't specify left of the column, I didn't specify the right of the column. It's gonna return the entire string. So you can see it gives me back Russia, okay, as is. Okay. Now we can also concatenate strings together. Okay, we can with a plus sign. So for example, let's say I have that what I had originally, my S, and so I'm gonna show you how to concatenate them now. Okay, so I could say, okay, now give me. I could put this in a print statement, but I don't have to. But I do S plus. Okay, I could add, and then remember, I need single quotes here because S is already defined as a string, so I don't have to put it in quotes. But since the second one has to be a string too, I have to put it in the quotes. And if I do ABC and I enter, notice it's gonna put my original string Russia next to ABC. Okay. Now, very important here. Does this mean I changed S? Look at this. If I type S, I don't get that ABC anymore, right? So that means I did not change S. S is still the same. I'll come back to this in a second. Now, we can also multiply a string. So for example, let's say I want this S repeated 3 times. Then I can say S star 3. That means print out my string 3 times. Okay? And you can see Russia, Russia, Russia 3 times. Okay. Now, remember, in block 14 here, I said that when I concatenated S with ABC, it printed out the right thing, right? But then when I printed out S, it didn't change it. So the reason for this is that strings are immutable in Python. Immutable. What does the word immutable mean? It means immutable. That means strings cannot be changed in place after they are created. Once they are created for good. Okay, you can multiply them, you can add stuff to the next to them, like I did here with S, but they cannot be changed. They're called immutable. Very important word. It will come a lot throughout my series on this. Okay, so you can change a string by assigning it to one of its positions. Okay, but you can always build a new one and assign it the same name. Okay, so yeah. So like for example, I'll show you also how this can go further. Let's say I go to my string S and I say, okay, I'm gonna make the 0th. I'm gonna assign to the 0th index. That means the very first character in my string, Russia. Remember, my S is still Russia, okay? Because I defined it in the first block. It still applies to every single block here because I already ran block 1. So anything after that understands that S is Russia. Okay, so let's say I change it and I say, okay, I'm going to assign a string K, okay, to that first s, to that first character in the string. Okay, and notice it doesn't let me. It gives me an error. Why? The reason is very important, and I will write it here. Immutable objects, strings, are immutable objects in Python. They cannot be changed in place. Okay, very important, this in red, so keep that in mind. Now but we can make a new object. We can make a new object. So for example, I can now, that string s, right, if I want, I can same name, I can assign it the same name, and I can say, okay, well, give me character z, right? I can plus concatenate it with my original s, right? But because I'm only changing the first, I want to change the first character, so I start from 1 and I go all the way to the end, and look what's going to happen here. And then let me print it, and you can see it added a z. So now I created this new string. So now it forgets about the previous string, right? Because I assigned a different string to s. So now it's gonna spit out the new string. So you can create a new one, and you can call it, you can assign it to the same name, but you can't change a string, right? So this leads me to the conclusion that every object in Python, okay, can be classified as either immutable, means you can change it, or immutable, you cannot change it. Okay, so numbers, so strings, let me add here to the list, strings, numbers, which we discussed last time, and tuples. Okay, I will discuss this the next lecture, I think. Okay, tuples, what you see here, this is a form of a tuple, but I will talk about that later. Okay, and tuples, these are immutable objects. Okay, versus other things which we will also discuss, lists, dictionaries. Here, why don't I just write it here, because it's very important, right? So I can move this bracket down, and I can add. So now lists, oops, dictionaries, and sets. Don't worry about what those are now, but I'll just write it because we will discuss them later in case you don't know what they are. Okay, those can be changed freely in their place. So I can change a list, which is very convenient, by the way. You want things, most of the time you want these things to be, to be changeable, to be mutable. Okay, to be able to, add to them, and change them, and so on and so forth. We will discuss this in detail. So they can be changed in the place, and classes too, but forget about classes for now. That's long ways from here. And so those are mutable. So can be changed in place. Okay. Now, let me say something here about the some specific methods for strings. So every string operation, as I said, can be described as it's really a sequence operation, right? So these operations will work on other sequences like lists and tuples. In addition, though, strings also have their own operations. Okay, these are available. These are available as methods. Okay, methods. So what are methods? They are functions that are attached to, and they can act on a specific object. Okay, which you can trigger with a call expression, so these are called these methods are type specific methods to strings and few others, and we will discuss some as we go along. So for example, if I have my string s, so let me go back to s being just Russia. Okay, so now I'm reassigning the string, and one of the call methods is find, right? So I could say, okay, s dot, so I put, so the way you call out these methods, okay, you invoke them, is you first you put the element that the method is acting on. So in this case, my method will act on string s, so it's gonna be s dot, okay, and then you put the method call, so that's find, okay, and let's say I want to find what u, okay, what u in this case is. Remember, this is a string, so it has to be in quotes always, single quotes or double quotes, okay. And look at this, it tells me that my character u in my string Russia is at index 1, okay, because r is 0, right? So u is 1. So if I put r here, it's going to give me 0, index 0. So that's what this is, okay. Another method is replace. So I put the name of the string as dot replace, okay. Now look how cool this is. So now I can replace something in my string with something else. So now first you put what you want to replace. So let's say I want to replace the double s, for example, okay, and comma what you want to replace it with. So now I can put let's say double k, for example, okay. And again, every string has to be in quotes, and then I can press enter, and look at this, it's gonna give me Rakya. So it replaced the double s with a double k. Now here's the question: if I print s, what do you think the answer will be? Do you think it's gonna be Rakya or Russia? Okay, well, if you guessed Russia, you would be wrong, because it's actually Russia. You see, it printed Russia. Again, the reason being very important. They're immutable. You cannot change us. Okay? You could assign this to something else, to a new string, right? But you cannot change it in place, right? So if unless I call it s, then then it will replace the original s. So in this case, it's gonna print, if I print it now, it's gonna print oh, because I have comma s. Yeah, if I print it now, it's gonna print Rakya because I already assigned it to s. But if I don't assign it to s and I try to print s, it's gonna take me back to Russia. That's because strings are immutable. Very important. Okay. So that's that. Those are called methods. Okay. So we discussed some methods. Okay. Let's say I also want to other methods that I want to split a string into substrings, right, with a certain delimiter. Okay. So for example, I have let's take this example. Let's say sentence. I'm just gonna call it sent equals. Let's say, and I'm gonna take my string to be. I'm gonna take my string to be. Let's say RR, right, comma UU, comma, just a random string, SS. Okay, that's enough. So let's say I want to split it on a delimiter into a list of substrings. So one method call, so remember, I type the name of the string, dot, method call, I call it split. So this is the third one we discussed, split, and I want you to split this based on a quote comma, okay, based on a comma, and I print it. And look what's going to happen. It's going to turn it into a list of substrings. So RR is one substring, UU is another substring, SS is another substring. And it puts it in a list format. We will discuss lists later. Okay. Another method call. Let's say I want my sent to be in uppercase. So I would type sent dot. Okay. Another method call. I tell it to me, give it to me in upper. Okay. And look at this. It's gonna make my RR capital R. Everything will be capital letters now. Okay. And then I can also check. Let's say I have this. I can check if something with a method call. I can check if something is in my string. So let's say I have a super long string, you know, or set of strings that are like 25 pages. You don't want to go look for every single one of them, right? You want to do it quickly. And let's say you're looking for something specific. So there's a method call for that. So you do send dot, send dot, and let's say I'm trying to see if is al- alphabet. It's is alphabet, and let's say I want to do alphabet or is digit, or if it's a number you can use is digit, is alphabet, and then you can type and then hit enter here, and you can see there's no A in there, so it gives me a false, right? So yeah, and by the way, there's a lot more method calls than this. You can look always in the documentation, but I mean, I don't want to go through all of them, but these are some. Okay. Yeah, there's one very important one which we will talk about a lot because it's related to files and so on. If I have a line and then I want to remove the white space on the right side of the line, right? I can R strip it. So let's say in this case my sent line, right? I can say let's say this is I'm still with the sent here, so I can do sent, right? And then dot, it's called R strip. Okay, it'll come very handy later on when we do files. And then what this does is it removes any white space white space characters on the right side. Okay. We can also I already showed you the split. You can also combine method calls together. So for example, you can split and R strip at the same time, right? You can combine operations together. So that comes in handy. There's also formatting with strings. You can do a lot of formatting. So I'm just gonna show you a quick example, but like there's like really a lot of formatting that can be done. Okay, but as long as you know the basics, you'll be able to basically format anything. But let's say let me go back to my string. Let me go back to you know what, actually on a second thought we'll talk about this later because this is a there's a lot that goes here. We will talk about this later because this video is getting a little long, and yeah, I will comment on these two as we go along. So okay, so formatting methods are there's a lot of formatting methods that are available uh, in Python as well. Okay. Let's see what else. Um, Now, sometimes, okay, let me say this. If you want to get into details like formatting or method calls or any of the things I discussed today in regards to strings or anything else, okay, you can always call. There's a built-in function called directory, dir. Okay, it's a dir function, and what this function does is it will list the variables. It will list the variables assigned in the caller scope. Okay, when you call it without an argument, so it returns a list of all the attributes, every single attribute available for whatever object that you pass on to it. Okay, so for example, in this case, since I defined s as a string, if I type dir, okay, dir, and you can see it turns green. That means it's used by Python. It's already an inherent function within Python, okay? So, and then I type s, and look at this. It lists all the attributes available for the string, okay? What can be done. You can see the list is very long, okay? You can do this for numbers as well. You could, whatever. You could do it for whatever. Now, the this directory function, uh, it simply gives you the names, right? But let's say, after you get these names, like you're looking for something, but you don't know what these names do. So then there's another neat way in Python where you can actually inquire into that to figure out what these do, right? So you can pass the help function. So help function, you type help, okay, and then you type the object you are trying to pass. So in this case, string. In this case, s. I called it s, right? Dot, and let's say you want to see what replace. I already explained what replace does. So you just type replace, okay? And look at this. Python will tell you how to do it. It'll tell you what this means and how to do it. So help on built-in function replace, and you can read here. It tells you replace. These are the arguments. So you start with the old string here, and the new string here, right? So replace whatever old with this new, okay, and it count -1, and then it tells you count the maximum number of occurrences to replace, right? -1, it tells you is the default value, okay, meaning replace all occurrences. So let's say you're replacing an A with something else, then it's gonna look for every single A in there and replace it with whatever is it your new argument is, right? Uh, if the optional argument count is given, okay, so it tells you that it's an optional argument, then it only the first count occurrences are replaced, and here is the function, and right the sentence below tells you it return a copy with all occurrences or substring old replaced by new. It tells you what this replace method does. Okay, very important. Okay. Also, one of the very helpful things in Python too, if you want to read more about that and like get in detail about specific something you need to do, there's Python doc, PyDoc. Okay, it's a tool for getting documentation for objects, and you can also get help on an entire string, and yeah. Um, Okay, let's see. Now, let me say a couple more things. Um, the Sometimes, let's say I have a string, right, and I want, let's say, to print, let's say S, right? So Russia, right? And let's say I want to also print S1, okay? And that's gonna print the U, right? So and then I can do length and so on and so forth. But let's say I want to print this on a new line. So what I can do here, I believe I don't need the comma. I could do \n, comma. I must still need the comma. Oops. Okay, it's giving me an error. Let me think. I'll come back later to this. Don't worry about it, because I was gonna expand on basically what this /n means. It starts on a new line, so I was gonna show you how to do this in this context. So let's say I'm printing. Let's say I'm printing. I have print. Okay. Let's say 5 4. I'll just show it to you in a different way. 5 4 3. It's gonna put them right next to each other, right? But I could do /n, and now it's gonna, oops, /n, comma, and now oops, Or maybe we have to be outside. Hold on 1 second. Print 5, print 3. Okay, so it's gonna print 5 and 3. And let's say I want to print uh, S0 and S1. That's the first index, the first character in my string, and the second character in my string. Okay, it's just random. Okay, now let's say I want this to be on a new line. So let's see if it's gonna work. I'm doing something wrong here. I'm not quite sure what it is. Let me think. Oh, yeah. I know what it is. You need to put it in quotes. /n. Here we go. So basically, what this /n does, and it needs to be in quotes because it's kind of like a string call. So what you're telling Python is after you print S0, which is R, okay, I want you to print S1, but I want you to go to a new line first. So this means a new line, okay, and I want you to print S1, okay. So then it goes to a new line and prints S1. Okay, so very important. Now, so that means it doesn't put them on the same line. Like when I didn't have it, it puts them next to each other. I can also separate them with a tab, right? So instead of, so /n stands for new line. If I do /t, it's a tab, okay? And then it's gonna tab them. So there's gonna be a tab between, so I don't even need those. I could just show you this. Okay, it's gonna be a tab between R and U, okay? And if I do N, it's gonna put them, when it prints them, it's gonna put them on different lines, right? So yeah, so this can come in handy as well. Okay, I think that's all I want to say about strings. And I hope you enjoyed it. The next lesson I will start with lists. Sorry, but the video is kind of long, but there was a lot to say. So next time we will start with lists. I hope this helped. If it did, please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. And if you would like to support our efforts to keep this education free and available for everyone, please don't hesitate to, if you can and able to donate to us in the link that we provide in the description at my email. This goes straight to to pay for whatever effort and time we put on this to keep it available for everyone. Thank you and have a great day.